This is a moment for justice seeking, for barrier breaking, for change making.
We can give our children the future they deserve.
This is a movement for her, for them, for you, for us. This election, be a part of the movement. Vote.
On Sunday, June 28th, 2020, the Mississippi State Legislature voted to take down the Confederate battle flag. A day many thought would never come. But Donald Trump had a different vision of America. That was the message the President of the United States shared with millions. On a day when the heart of the Confederacy finally lowered its flag, Donald Trump was still fighting the Civil War. America is better than Donald Trump. We want to move forward, together. This November, say no to Donald Trump's racist anger and division. Say yes to a good man who can help us heal.
The Forum, exclusively on Facebook Live, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Call in or text live 414-395-0484. Thought-provoking talk radio covering all topics from local to national and everything in between. It may not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, exclusively on Facebook Live, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Podcasts available on our website, theforum2.com. Check us out. Good morning, welcome to the program. Today is Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. Well, I'm sure you guys have heard the news about who Joe Biden selected to be his running mate, California Senator and former competitor for the Democratic nomination, Kamala Harris. And as you would expect it, the criticisms have begun. And let me start by saying this. I am fully in support of this ticket. But again, my standard was incredibly low for who Joe Biden could have picked. Like, there wasn't a person that he could have picked where I would have said, no, I'm not voting, because I'm not voting for, how much I like these people or what kind of level of affection I have for them. There's a job that needs to get done in this country, and I don't know how to make that more clear. And so who Joe Biden selects would have been fine with me. And I also know this, the first important job that he would do as president is to select his running mate. So he's already made his first major decision, but also whatever you think about Joe Biden, and I know you guys think a bunch of things about him, he's what we got. And if you look at the policies that he is going to support and where he wants to move this country away from where it is right now, that makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world. And don't forget, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not going to be with us much longer. I'm hoping, listen, she has to survive until January 20th, 2021 at 12:01 p.m. Meaning that even if Donald Trump loses the election November 3rd and Ruth Bader Ginsburg is no longer with us on November 4th, Donald Trump still gets that appointment. And the Republicans that control the Senate, because even if Mitch McConnell loses his majority, the Republicans still control the Senate until the new senators in the majority are sworn in January. And so you have to think much bigger than how much you do or don't like Joe Biden or the 1994 crime bill or all these other things that people are trying to bring up. Now, the criticisms about Kamala Harris, and let me say this, I was one of those people that criticized her because I looked at the tone of her campaign when she was running for the nomination, and it just didn't click with me because there were so many other different types of Democrats to choose from. But also, this is me personally. Everybody has their own, reasons and ideas. And the way I look at politics, I'm not a normal person, as all of you know. I look at things that are between the margins. I look at the granular pieces of our political discourse, not just the talking points, not just the rhetoric. I look between the lines and I see that there are things that Joe Biden could do, the experience that he could bring, the accolades that he could bring, President Barack Obama's support that he would bring, that were all necessary in defeating Donald Trump. Like, you have to check as many boxes as you possibly can to defeat Donald Trump because it's still not going to be easy. And I was with Joe Biden long before I probably should have been, going back to April of 2019. That being said, there was a standard that was set for the American presidency, and I believe it was set by Barack Obama. The standard itself was set by Barack Obama, but Joe Biden was a part of that. And there's a level of experience and insight that Joe Biden has that some of these other candidates do not. And I guess that's the difficult part to communicate, because when you express your support for a candidate, people try to change your mind. Like you're not smart enough to make your own decision. They need to tell you why you're wrong in supporting who you're supporting. I need Donald Trump to be out of office so we can begin to repair the damage that has been done to this nation. And if Donald Trump gets reelected, the American experiment is over. And so all of the people that are fighting for all of these righteous causes and progressive causes and for police reform and criminal justice reform and to increase wages, that will never happen. Because the kind of republic that we will have after 4 more years of Donald Trump, those things will be extinguished forever. And I don't think people, they don't get it. They didn't get it when Donald Trump was on the campaign trail in 2016. They thought it was cute. They thought it was funny. Some people even voted for Trump. It's not going to be that bad. I'm going to send a message to the system. That's what I'm going to do, somebody said. I'm going to vote for Trump. Some of the people that said that, let's be real clear about this, they're dead now because of their vote for him. Didn't work out so well for them. I'm trying to have less people dead, which is a real low standard. And when you set your standard that low, I just want less dead people. Then Joe Biden could have picked a dish rag, and I would be like, oh, well, I guess that's what we got. The criticisms of Kamala Harris are going to be swift. Donald Trump has been rocked back on his heels because he doesn't really know how to criticize her. It's going to be some of the same things you heard about Hillary Clinton. But he has to be a little bit more careful now, doesn't he? The only thing Trump hasn't said, is the word nigger. That's it. He said everything else. That's the only thing he hasn't said. And when it comes to Kamala Harris, that's really the only thing he's got. And we know he won't say that. I kind of hope he does, actually. Kind of hope he does. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Nicole Renee, Vanessa Garrett. Good morning to you. Star, good morning. Marlon Pitchford says, what up, people? What up, Marlon? Leah Delaney says, morning. Alden Higgins, morning, my good brother. Morning, Alden. Tammy Reed, good morning. My good friend Chris Wyken, good morning. Chris. Latasha Fields, good morning. It is a good morning, isn't it, Tasha? We're going to talk about local election results in a little while. It was a crazy night. Do you guys know that in some of these state assembly races, and remember, the road to beating Donald Trump started with yesterday's election. And I say that because the process is going to be a little bit different in how we cast our votes because of the pandemic. And I went to the polling place I brought my Facebook Live camera with me, but I was told that it's whatever federal crime to broadcast live and to take pictures in a polling place. Man, whatever. So I gave my my narrative of what it was like to vote during the pandemic. It was business as usual, pretty much par for the course. Save for some of the plexiglass shields that I've gotten used to seeing them at grocery stores and other places out in public, but not so much at my polling location. And so I said the road to beating Donald Trump started yesterday is because people need to get used to this new way of voting in person. I've been saying it for weeks. You guys know I've been saying it. I was not going to vote early. I was not going to vote by mail. First and foremost, I couldn't vote by mail because my absentee ballot, my mail-in ballot, never came, which is fine because even if I would have received it, I still would have gone and voted on Election Day. The amount of ballots that were not yet counted from the city of Milwaukee by 2 o'clock in the morning was staggering. There were individuals who were on the ballot yesterday who had been campaigning during a pandemic, during some of this horrendous heat and humidity that we have had, that went to bed thinking they won their respective races, woke up this morning to find out that they lost because of the backlog of uncounted mail-in ballots. Guys, I'm telling you, don't use that system. Because here's what I don't want. A bunch of y'all say I'm going to be whatever and mail my ballots in November, and we don't know for 3 weeks or for 4 weeks if Donald Trump won the state of Wisconsin because it could hinge on the state of Wisconsin. No, we're not doing that. You go and vote in person, your ballot is counted immediately. The results are transmitted instantaneously via the internet at 8 p.m. at the speed of light. But I understand. Some people want to mail their ballots in. And let me also be clear about this. There are some people that only mail their ballots in. There's a permanent absentee voter list that has been around since the beginning of time. There is a smaller number of voters that vote by mail in every election. But if you have the ability to go and vote in person, vote in person. But if you do not have such an ability, then there is a system that exists. But what we don't want is a number of outstanding uncounted ballots because one of the machines broke down, or what we found out yesterday was one of the machines that opens the envelopes that your ballots are sent in. That machine broke. And so they had to open all of the individual ballot envelopes by hand, and it took forever. Then they have to feed them into the machines one by one. We can't have that happening on November 3rd for a variety of reasons, because the more uncertainty there is about the result of the November 3rd election, the more time Donald Trump has to manufacture a way to stay in office. And then as Donald Trump is manufacturing this way to stay in office, Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies, Donald Trump gets another pick on the U.S. Supreme Court, and abortion is overturned. Voting rights is overturned. Civil rights are overturned. Don't do that. Let's not do that. Kamala Harris isn't black enough for you? Sorry. Joe Biden is a racist. Oh, well. So are your parents, probably. Good morning, Jason. LBC to the fullest. Congrats. Oh, boy. Let me take a moment and, first of all, thank you, Jason, for your dedicated service. State Representative Jason Fields, for your dedicated service to the people, to the 11th Assembly District. You served with great distinction and great honor and got more bills signed into law than certainly any Democrat, and maybe even more than some Republicans. So for that, we thank you. But also, Jason, when you asked me to meet a young woman by the name of Dora Drake some time ago, because you believe that she had what it takes to represent the people that have been in great legislative care under your tenure. And I met her, and I just think she is fantastic. And here's why I'm so incredibly proud of the race that Dora Drake ran for the 11th Assembly District. And you can call me selfish if you want to, or you're going to call me selfish. Now is the time where those of us that are a little bit more seasoned, and we know how this thing works, not the short game, but we know how the long game of policy works. Many, many years from now will be the result of the policies that we want to implement at this moment. Now is the time that those of us who are middle-aged and who've been doing this for a while provide our knowledge, experience, and expertise to a younger generation that will be assuming the reins, so that when we get into our old age, if Corona doesn't get us all, we would have helped create a cohort of elected officials that see the world the way it should be seen and can legislate from that perspective. So in my old age, there will be people like Dora Drake in office and others that will continue to fight the good fight, so I don't have to be up late at night clamoring and yelling and screaming and urging elected officials to do the right thing. Now is the time in which we begin to pass that knowledge down, because I'll be honest with you, our generation, especially amongst African Americans, our parents didn't pass the knowledge base down to us like they should have. An entire generation did not do that. We had to learn about racism and white supremacy and the pitfalls therein, especially in corporate America, on our own. And part of that was how our parents' generation, I'm talking about black baby boomers, they didn't want to damage us or hurt us or be honest with us and be truthful with us about how evil and sinister white supremacy and white people can be, how cutthroat they can be, how they will go to the ends of the earth to maintain their semblance of power. And Donald Trump's election is perfect example of that. So they didn't give us all of the details of the headache and the heartbreak. Now, we learned some of it in history and in schools and through some anecdotal evidence, but we never got these individual stories of how bad it could be or what we were going to face once we got into the real world when we became adults. I think it is incumbent upon my generation, Generation X, to pass down everything we know, all of our experiences, good and bad, the tips and the tricks, what helped get us through, what is successful, what is not successful, so generations behind us do not make the same mistakes, because it's time out for that. And Dora Drake represents one of those new leaders, and I'm so glad that she won. So happy. Texted her this morning, said congratulations to her. She ran one heck of a campaign, because this was not easy by any means, because there's a pandemic going on. And one of the ways in which you get elected to public office is you got to engage voters. You got to talk to people. You have to. They need to know what they're getting for their vote. Because remember, someone's vote took blood to obtain. And so if you are asking someone to vote for you, you need to give them a reason. And sometimes the reasons you give are not good enough. That's what this democracy is. But another way in which you win the election, I got to get to the specific election results in a minute, is by how large your apparatus of communicating with voters is. So I'm on a list, I'd imagine, of people that vote in elections. And so when you're on that list, campaigns can purchase that list, so they know who the people are that they need to outreach to, right? So if you voted in 4 of the last 4 elections, chances are you're probably going to vote in November. So you will be the recipient of text messages, email messages, phone calls, direct mail, targeted digital. Did you guys, when you went to your social medias, when you went to your little YouTubes, and by the way, sign up for the Forum YouTube channel. It's the forum2.com on YouTube. Go ahead and sign up for that. You saw videos play. And sometimes these videos were for candidates that were running in your specific area. That is another way in which candidates can spread their message to more people, because you can target people based upon who votes digitally. Like when I opened up my YouTubes and my Facebooks, I didn't see some of the same political correspondences and maybe someone who lives on the South Side or someone who lives in the North Shore, because I am targeted specifically based upon where I live and who's going to appear on my ballot. But another way in which you can spread your campaign message, and also let me say this, congratulations to Supreme Moore Omakunda. He finally got to the Wisconsin State Assembly. He's been trying for a while. He ran in the 17th Assembly District. That is the Assembly District in which I live, where County Executive David Crowley used to represent, but then he, of course, won his county executive election in April, leaving essentially an open seat in the 17th Assembly District. And I'll be honest with you, from what I saw living in the 17th, it seemed like Chris Walton, who is the chair of the Milwaukee County Democratic Party, it seemed like his campaign was making more traction on the ground. But again, you can't judge by yard signs. Chris Walton's yard signs blanketed the district, but he unfortunately was not successful. But here's a piece of direct mail I got from Chris Walton. See there? Don't look at my address, because y'all try to come over to old Sherwin's house if you know my address. It's a decent piece, nice picture of him. It's, It's detailed, but not too long, not too wordy. Got a little logo. See that? Little Chris Walton. He's send a strong Democrat to Madison. Like, all the people that were running in the 17th were strong Democrats. Well, except maybe one, but whatever. So Chris Walton did not win, but let me show you who did win. Supreme Moore Omokunde, who is the son of Congresswoman Gwen Moore. So Chris Walton sends, sorry, Chris, you're upside down, buddy. I signed his nomination papers, actually, and I wanted to, have a conversation with him because there was an interest in, helping him get across the finish line, but he didn't want no help from Sherwin. What do you want me to do? So his opponent, one of his opponents, Supreme Moore Omokunde, also sent some direct mail. Not only did Supreme send more direct mail, he did digital. He sent out automated text messages to remind people to vote and to vote for him and to turn in their absentee ballots. He also did a video, a video, little mini movie, not a mini movie, but a little video of him talking about vote for me because I'm good or whatever. It was actually very effective. But here's what Supreme did in the mail. So he sent this piece here. That opens up like a book, okay? And guys, these are expensive because these are going to, the list of voters in the 17th Assembly District is probably 8,000 or 9,000 people. So you have to get these designed, you have to get these printed, and then you got to pay the postage. So these are extremely expensive. So Supreme sent this one, and it opens up. I was like, oh, okay. I'm lying. I just opened this up this morning because when I receive these, I usually just throw them on my coffee table. But it's a nice little piece. So he sent this. Then he sent this. Then he sent this. Then he sent this. You would think, if you're just a casual onlooker and don't really pay a lot of attention to state assembly races, you would think that Supreme Moore Omokunde was the only one that even cared about running in this race because he sent this, he sent this, he sent this, he sent this. Chris Walton only sent that. The other race. We talked to her yesterday. She called in yesterday. My former colleague at WNOV, Michelle Bryant, who made a gutsy, bold move to challenge an incumbent state senator in LaTanya Johnson. Michelle sent a very nice piece. Now, the difference between a state assembly race and a state's... Stop looking at my address for y'all show up and want to eat my barbecue. Cut it out. There are 3 assembly districts in 1 Senate district, right? These are better than 150, 160,000 people in a Senate district. So my organization, Leaders for a Better Community, we were involved in a state Senate campaign in 2016, and sending one piece of direct mail in a state Senate race was incredibly expensive. It's something like 22 or 23,000 voters. Now remember, you got to get this designed, you got to get it printed, and then you have to pay the postage. So these are incredibly expensive, and that is why these candidates are often essentially begging for money, because without the resources to send out campaign correspondences, because let's be honest, you can't knock on every door in a state Senate race. There's 100,000+ houses in a state Senate race. You can't do it. So where you can't be, the mail can be. So Michelle was able to get enough campaign scratch to send out a decent and effective piece of direct mail. And also, Michelle had some name ID because she was on talk radio for many years. So I think that helped, but it clearly wasn't enough. But Michelle was running against the incumbent, LaTanya Johnson. LaTanya Johnson sent this. And also like what she did with her direct mail, because she has a sample ballot. Oh, everything's backwards here. Stop looking at my address for y'all. Show up at my house. Right? So she sent this one. Then LaTanya Johnson sent this one. It almost looks exactly the same. So she, poor LaTanya. LaTanya only got one picture. She only has one picture. This is the same picture that LaTanya used also in her digital correspondences, which she also ran. Literally every time I open Facebook, a LaTanya Johnson video was playing in my news feed. So you got this here, a little sample ballot. Don't look at my address. Okay. And then she sent essentially the same damn thing. Another sample ballot on the back. Tony Evers is on this one. Stop looking at my address, damn it. Okay. And then LaTanya Johnson also sent, oh, here's a different picture of her. Oh, she with Joe Biden on this one. And she with Tammy Baldwin. So obviously, LaTanya Johnson has more institutional support, and then Tony Evers is on this one as well. So LaTanya Johnson sends out 3 mailers to Michelle's 1. LaTanya also had, I got text messages from people affiliated with LaTanya Johnson's campaign. So all of those different methods of voter contact help reinforce the message these candidates are trying to communicate. And here's the other thing about this particular election cycle. As LaTanya Johnson and Chris Walton rather, and Supreme Moore Omakunde are sending out these in the mail. So Supreme would send this out, let's say it came on a Tuesday. Somebody's ballot, their mail-in ballot, would also be in the mailbox at the exact same time. And if you haven't heard anything else from any other candidate, and you open up your mail looking for your Trump check, and you look in the mailbox and you have a piece of literature from Supreme, and then you also have your mail-in ballot. You open up your ballot and you see Supreme's name in the district in which you live. It makes it very easy. So people were able to essentially layer their campaign correspondences arriving in the mail at the same time as ballots. I think that, look, I got so many of these. I'm going to be honest with you guys. So I'm going to tell you in a second. Hold on. So these candidates, Chris Walton, Supreme Moore Omakunde, candidates in the 17th. Supreme won that seat to succeed David Crowley. LaTanya Johnson and her 1, 2, 3 mail pieces. Michelle Bryant and her single mail piece combined to send these many correspondences to the voters in the 6th Senate District and the 17th Assembly District. This is at minimum $150,000. That's probably more than that, just for the direct mail. So it's very, very expensive. And so I wish that those who really care about this democracy and those that really believe in certain candidates that are running for office, that's great. But if you're not volunteering for them, if you're not knocking on doors for them or making telephone calls or sending text messages for them, you have to contribute, because it's really expensive getting your message out. It essentially is an advertising / PR campaign where you are selling yourself as a representative, right? You're selling your campaign, you're selling your platform, you're selling your personality. Sometimes you're selling how nice you are to puppies, right? Whatever it is that you can offer to voters that make you a better choice than your opponent, a lot of times that is what it takes to win. Gail Williams says, morning all, and says hello to Tammy Reed. Tammy Reed is kind of like a celebrity in the comments every morning. Alden Higgins, the criticism is absolutely horrible from our own people. Yeah, regarding Kamala Harris. And so I don't want to engage in the criticisms because I've done enough of that during the Democratic presidential primary process, because that is when Democrats have the ability to scrutinize one another. Because we're trying to figure out which Democrat amongst all of them that are running in a crowded primary is the one we want to move forward with. Just like the primary election we saw yesterday, we were selecting amongst Democrats which of the Democrats that are running do we want to represent us in a post-Trump era, even here at the state level. Orvana Harris, good morning to you. Jason Fields, explain it to them, bruh. We out here missing the bigger picture and hidden strategies. There was so much. Oh my God, you guys. No, I'm not. Even amongst my opponents. Because when you're involved in a race and you're trying to help a candidate get across the finish line, you ain't got no friends. And some of your friends could be running against you. Some of your friends could be helping your opponent. So when the race is on, you ain't got no friends. But hopefully when the election is over and the results are in and the votes are finally counted, you get back to the original mission, which is creating a much better quality of life. But the amount of dirt and disrespect and just nastiness that was thrown around amongst people, that's how you know your campaign is not hitting the mark and not resonating with voters, when you just start tearing down and lying and being deceitful on one of your opponents. Look, and I get it, but it also shows a sign of desperation. And I'm not going to name any names, but I am really, really disappointed by people that I considered friends that were struggling to get, a grasp on a decent campaign, and then just decided to be really, really mean. So I'm just going to leave that alone. Nona Foster says, perfectly said. Michelle Wilborn, good morning to you. Monica Emma, he hasn't said it out loud publicly, but you know he has said it, talking about Donald Trump and the N-word. I wish there was, maybe I don't wish. No, maybe I do. For all those people that say, Donald Trump's not really racist. But even if he got caught saying the N-word, I'm sure wasn't there somebody who said they had a recording of it? A couple of years ago, they said they had a recording of Donald Trump saying the N-word. I wonder what happened to that recording. Or maybe they're waiting for the right time to release it. Judy Brown said, yeah, even high-profile people have died because of Donald Trump. Can we say Herman Cain? Herman Cain, and I believe his wife passed away. And guys, that's sad. And you can't say, oh, look, they shouldn't have went to the Tulsa rally and I told you so. There are people that are so romanticized by this president that they won't believe fact, they won't believe doctors, they won't believe science, but they believe Donald Trump. And that belief cost them their lives. And it's not funny. It's really, really terrible. And so I want to mitigate that, because if Donald Trump could lead us down a darker path during a pandemic, think about what more he can do if he gets 4 more years. Not to mention the statute of limitations runs out and Donald Trump cannot be prosecuted for obstruction of justice. If he gets defeated, Donald Trump very well could be arrested. He very well could be prosecuted. He very well may see his day in court. And the way I understand the New York Attorney General, because there's a bunch of ways that they could arrest Donald Trump. Because when you're no longer president, you don't have that particular type of executive immunity. That unitary executive theory that Antonin Scalia and Attorney General Barr uphold, where the president can do anything. That's why Donald Trump often says, I'm the president, I can do anything. Because there are members of his cabinet and former members of the U.S. Supreme Court, and even still members of the U.S. Supreme Court, that support the president's ability to break the law. But the way the southern sovereign district of New York would operate, Donald Trump loses the election, Joe Biden gets inaugurated, it would be in his best interest to attend the inauguration, because they wouldn't send agents to arrest Donald Trump at the inauguration. So if Donald Trump goes to the inauguration, he would just be biding a little bit of time. But Donald Trump would get arrested and taken away in handcuffs. Could you imagine that on the front page of the Washington Post? Tish Nelson, grand rising to you, Tish Nelson. L. Cocroft, good morning from Mia. Cassandra D says good morning. Diane Blaylock, Herman Cain, he did a mail-in ballot, so his vote counts. Ooh, that's kind of... You know how they get mad when dead people vote? I mean, I guess how does that work? If you vote, does your vote count if you're dead? Right, because they don't remember when the Republicans were like, oh, a bunch of these dead people are voting. So if you vote by mail, send it in the mail, die, is your vote valid? Does a death certificate cancel out a vote? Marlon Pitchford said, I was a poll worker yesterday, and Waukesha had a good system of counting absentee ballots on the spot. You know, Marlon, I think that Waukesha can probably get, and I don't want to, because I don't really know the system that Waukesha has, but because their population is probably smaller, the influx of absentee ballots that would come to central count, this is citywide, right? So every absentee ballot, every mail-in ballot that was sent from every ward throughout the city coming to one location would require way more labor to process those ballots than in Waukesha. Mark Superfly Chambers. What up, Mark? Good morning, sir. Congratulations to you, Mark. Can we all agree that the biggest loser of 2020 in Milwaukee County, outside of COVID, is none other than the mayor of Glendale, Brian Kennedy? He has 2 losses in the county executive race last night. I'm very disappointed in Brian Kennedy. I really am. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because I expect, and I know Brian, known him for a very long time. Even met with him right after he made his announcement that he was running for county executive. You know, he'd run for Congress and run for a bunch of things a couple times. I think he'd been on the school board. But if you're the mayor of a city, especially one that borders the city of Milwaukee, because we all have a collective agenda here. And Glendale and Milwaukee are like cousins. You know, there's a lot of geographic similarity. I think that you should uphold yourself with a level of dignity. And I'm really, really disappointed. But again, I've been disappointed by politicians and elected officials before. But you know how you have expectations for people and they let you down? And I'll be honest with you guys, 2020 has been a tough year. A friend of mine that I went to high school with named Jake Vanook, he died. One of my best friends, Sam Rasad, committed suicide. I can't spend time with my friends and my family because of the pandemic. You know, the hotspot of coronavirus was, a handful of blocks away from, where I live. And so it's been a really, really tough year. And then to be further disappointed by people that you thought were good and decent, it makes it worse. It does. Good morning, David Todd. Jasmine Johnson. Shout out to Dora Drake. Congratulations. We're happy for you, Dora. Dora Drake is in the live. Good morning, Dora. Jasmine Johnson. See Dora replying to Jasmine. Thank you, and thank you for all of your support. I was hoping for Cory Booker. You know what, Ingrid? This is black women's time. And I'm not going to argue the points. I've even heard, they're getting so detailed with the criticisms of Kamala Harris that, wait, she's the daughter of immigrants that are of Indian descent and Jamaican descent. Kamala Harris is black, but not African American. How does somebody even take the time to come up with that? There's literally an article that says, stop calling Kamala Harris African American because she is ethnically Jamaican and Indian. Like, really? But this is black women's time. A lot of people don't know or they don't want to admit because they have their own racist stereotypes about black women. They have propped up your Democratic Party for years. They have saved the Democratic Party from itself. You guys remember the U.S. Senate race in Alabama when Barack Obama, oh Lord, don't make that mistake, Sherwin. Ooh. When Donald Trump picked Jeff Sessions to be his attorney general. Remember that? Remember Jeff Sessions? Jefferson Beauregard Sessions is named after two Confederate generals. Two. Jefferson Davis and P.T. Beauregard. And that is who Donald Trump picked to be his first attorney general. Senator from Alabama. And then there was a Senate race, a U.S. Senate race in the state of Alabama, putting Roy Jones, the Democrat, against, I think his name was, what was Roy Jones' opponent? Larry Moore, maybe? Larry Moore was, when he was district attorney in Alabama, in his mid-30s, it was known throughout the town that this guy was a DA, okay? Would go to the local shopping mall to pick up teenage girls. And was even so bold, because he was dating one 16-year-old girl. This guy was like 35, 36 years old, right? What's Larry Jones, I think? No, it's not. What's Larry? Who is the guy that ran, the pedophile guy? Somebody's going to type it in the comment box. He was a known pedophile and even was bold enough to ask this 16-year-old girl's mother if he could date her 16-year-old daughter. This guy was an elected official in his 30s, a known pedophile. And if it wasn't for African-American women in the state of Alabama who voted in a 98% number for Doug Jones, Alabama would have elected a known pedophile to succeed Jeff Sessions. So if it was not for African-American women, that's just one example. I would say that the foundation of my political career began with African-American women in and around the city of Milwaukee who are entrenched in politics, who believed in me. Martha Love, many, many years ago, believed in me. State Senator Lena Taylor believed in me, hired me to work in her state Senate office 12 years ago, was instrumental in helping me get my own radio show in WNOV. Tosha Davis believed in me. It is now time for black women to assume the mantle of power in this nation because they have been fighting for it. They have been dying for it. A friend of mine that I've known better than half my life, probably 3/4 of my life, Pamela Shaw, had posted a picture, like a black Mount Rushmore, right? It's a picture of Martin Luther King. It was a picture of Nelson Mandela and Malcolm X, and I think there may have been one other. And then she posted this picture of this black powerhouse Mount Rushmore. And the comment was, post one word that comes to mind when you see this picture of this black Mount Rushmore, Dr. King, Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X. And I said patriarchy. And I said that because, and of course, Pamela was like, why you say that? Because those men would not have been the men that they became without their wives. There is no Nelson Mandela. There's no Madiba without Winnie Mandela. There is certainly no Martin Luther King without Coretta Scott King. Oh, and Barack Obama. How could I forget Obama? Obama was in that picture as well. There absolutely was no Barack Obama without Michelle. In fact, without Michelle Obama, I don't believe that Barack Obama could have gotten elected. If Barack Obama had a white wife, he would not have been elected president of the United States. It is black women's time. Now, that's what we're probably going to be arguing about, because a lot of the scrutiny is going to be taken off of Joe Biden and now put on Kamala Harris. But here's what's important. Donald Trump doesn't have anything to come at Kamala Harris with. You can't call her a member of the radical left. You can't say she's some crazy socialist that wants to give people free health care. No. Kamala Harris has got a history of, and you can say that she's got progressive credentials, whatever. All I know is the progressives that I know, that I'm familiar with, were not in support of Kamala Harris because of her record on criminal justice. But you can't put her in that radical left, communist sympathizing Democratic socialist column. Her philosophy of tough on crime, and Joe Biden had the exact same philosophy as well. And guess what? Believe it or not, your best friend Bernie Sanders also had a similar tough on crime philosophy, because at the time in the 1980s and the 1990s, we were seeing violent crime at epidemic levels in cities around this country. And Congress was urged to act, not on their own accord, because we people, our neighborhoods, our communities, including black people, wanted to see tougher on crime measures. This was not just a bunch of white people that said, let's incarcerate a bunch of black people. This was black people saying we need to incarcerate a bunch of black people. We needed some immediate relief from the scourge of crack cocaine. Immediate relief. And if that was tougher prison sentences, then that's what it was going to be. If that was more police on the streets and more funding for local police, then that's what it was going to be. We did not know at the time that it would develop into this sinister and evil culture of policing that ultimately got monopolized and capitalized on by building a prison industrial complex. We didn't know that at the time. At the time, we needed immediate relief. One of the things the 1994 crime bill did do is it put almost equal numbers of funding for more police on the streets, but also more teachers in the classroom. Okay? And those of us that came up in the 1990s, especially African American men, a lot of us went to college. And I'm not going to say it was directly related to that 1994 crime bill, but people aren't talking about the whole story. They're just saying, oh, Bill Clinton and Joe Biden, and they locked up a whole bunch of black people. But at the exact same time, a lot of black people were also going to college because there was a stress on education. We needed to do something about the criminals that were ravaging our neighborhoods and our communities more than anybody else's, because even then, the white folks would come to the black community and buy their dope, and we would get the law enforcement, and we also would get a disproportionate amount of the gun violence and gang violence, and white folks went back out to their separated and segregated communities. So it was disproportionately affecting us. But a lot of us were able to survive that era and got an education out of it, and I have to think that at some part, it had to do with the federal funding that came through the 1994 crime bill. Latasha Fields says, congrats to Dora. Dora's just got congratulations all over the place. Let's pop some champagne. I think I got a bottle of champagne, actually. Would y'all look at me crazy if I popped a bottle of champagne? I'm like, oh, don't worry. One of these days I probably will. Jasmine Johnson said, I want barbecue. You ain't coming. Because I held up these pieces of direct mail. Here's Michelle. And I might have shown y'all my address by accident. Do not come to my house and eat my barbecue. Susie Roundy Schmidt, keeping the USPS in business. Yes, talking about all of these direct mail pieces. But think about that, though. So all of the direct, and this is just, I live in the 17th Assembly District and the 6th Senate District. And this is the amount of direct mail that I got. Oh, dang. Right? There were ballots in the mail, too. So think about, like, this was probably as busy in some areas more than others as Christmas season, when people send Christmas cards, the number of ballots that were getting mailed out, plus the campaign literature. I was getting campaign literature for a while. I get 2 pieces a week at least, sometimes 3 pieces a week. Me, Dora Drake, and Supreme used my guy, Brandon Savage, and Sherwin Hughes. If you want to win, you got to use the right team. You know, Jason, we don't just help everybody. For those that don't know, I started a 501c4 grassroots organization called Leaders for a Better Community. Like, we take a lot of heat, a lot of people that get mad at us. You know why they get mad at us? Because we help black candidates get elected. And there's some people in this town who, again, will remain nameless. They're white people, and they want to be and have the monopoly on getting black people elected. No, not while I'm alive. Not while I got a beating heart. No. And we help candidates that have the agenda and the things that I've been talking about on the radio, the things that I've been supporting and promoting my entire political career, the things that Jason Fields and I have been working on for 18 years. There are people that see that same agenda as valuable and helpful to the black community. Those are the people that we help get elected. That's it. If you don't fit inside that paradigm, then I'm not going to work with you. I'm sure you're a very good person. I'm sure you could be a good elected official in your own right. But black people in this segregated community, this disproportionately impoverished community, need representatives that see the world a particular way. And that is what we do. Money plays a huge part in these races, says Jerome Johnson. Yeah, I mean, money is, it's part of the fuel that, feeds the engine of a political apparatus. And more than anything else, and many years ago, we put on a campaign training school because there's a lot of really wonderful people that would make great elected officials, but they have no idea of how to run a campaign. Everything from how to get on the ballot to how to raise money to how to properly and effectively message, how to communicate to voters. But above all else, of course, you have to raise money, because if you've got a great message and nobody hears it, then your message really isn't all that great because it's been, circulating in silence. Campaigns are the management of time. If you have money, then you maximize the time you have with the money, because time is the only resource in a campaign that you do not get back. You can, buy yard signs, you can buy direct mail, you can buy those little door hangers, and you can raise money and try and recoup some of that money back from those expenditures, but you don't get more time. You know when the election day is, and that's it. It's a fixed date, right? And that's it. So you have to do everything you need to do and outreach to voters in that very fixed amount of time. So it is the management of time. Now, if you have the resources in which you can correspond with voters during that entire stretch of the campaign and then have it all come to a crescendo on election day, then chances are you ran a fairly decent campaign. But at the end of the day, the voters have to want you to represent them. It is an honor to be able to represent people. It's not a job. It doesn't pay enough. People will bother you. Sorry, Dora, but now it's going to start, because now people are going to have, the dog is going to be barking next door. Sherwin is barbecuing at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to call Dora Drake, because Sherwin over here barbecuing in his boxer shorts in his backyard. They're going to call you for everything, but it is an honor to be a trusted steward of the residents of our community, where people call on you when they need resources, when they need help, when they need information, and when they need you to do the right thing for them in Madison. Let's also keep this in mind. Dora Drake is not done. She's going to also appear on the November 3rd ballot. Typically, in a race like the 11th Assembly District, there are no Republicans, because it's such a democratically drawn district that a Republican simply cannot win there. Well, sad to inform you, there is a Kanye West-style, Trump-loving candidate, a guy named Orlando Owens, who literally is like more extreme on his love for Donald Trump than Kanye West is. Now, Orlando, he's widely considered a clown. Even his Republican friends and allies laugh at him behind his back, but he doesn't know that. And so he was encouraged to run for the state assembly in the 11th district, where Dora just won the Democratic primary, because Orlando believes in his mind that he actually can win. In the last probably 30 years, there hasn't been more than 10% Republican turnout in the 11th Assembly District. Maybe 15% during the George Bush era. Maybe 15. You can't win an election with 15% of the vote. That means that the Democratic candidate, Dora Drake, by default, who's going to be on the same Democratic column as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, is going to get 85% of the vote. Now, she still has to campaign because she does have a Republican that is running in the 11th Assembly District. So I did an interview with Orlando at a previous radio station I was at, and I had to dig through my crates of old interviews to find it, and I found it. I had to edit it down because it went on forever. And what I'll do, if y'all remind me, is I'll post the link to the podcast of my interview with Orlando Owens, who's a Republican candidate in the 11th Assembly District. This dude is professing his love for Donald Trump for 20 straight minutes, nonstop. Everything from locking kids in cages to Donald Trump's rhetoric to Donald Trump destroying and dividing the country. This is an African-American man. But let me also say this. I don't begrudge someone because of their political affiliation, because, we're all different and we all have the right to believe whatever we want to believe and worship whatever God you want to worship. I have no issue with that. But when you are in support of Donald Trump against the best wishes of your own neighborhood, against the best wishes of your own community, then that's what I have a problem with. You can be a conservative, you can be a Republican, because black people are not a monolith, and I want you to know that there is no one definition of blackness. Black is beautiful because it is ubiquitous. It is everywhere. It's up high, it's down low, black is in the middle. But when you are black and disrespecting the history and the legacy of how we came to be, I can't go for that. Once said by Daryl Hall and John Oates. Congratulations, Issy Ramon. And here's the thing, Issy Ramon, congratulations to you. Issy won a landslide in his Register of Deeds race countywide. Issy, I think you're a great guy. We've never met, but I seen you with some people that look, you got to do what you got to do countywide. I understand this. And I'm not going to begrudge you because you ran a smart campaign. Brandon Savage, you're one of the best out there, man. Brandon's very good, too, as a campaign manager and strategist. But I seen Issy out there doing doors with some people that I was in direct competition with. And I don't like that. I don't like that, Issy. But congratulations to you, sir. No worries, says Issy Ramon. Congratulations. Looking forward to meeting Dora. Y'all just talking amongst yourselves. Okay, Dora's thanking everybody. Diana Beckham says, I can't wait. Jason Fields, I would love to hear your analysis on the Pence versus Harris debate. First of all, is Mike Pence even going to show up to a debate with Kamala Harris? Isn't Mike Pence afraid to be alone with a woman that's not his wife? Didn't Mike Pence say that? He wouldn't go to lunch or something with a female colleague because he can't be alone with a woman that's not his wife? So what'll happen is they'll have the debate. CNN will probably cover it. They'll have the moderators there at the moderator table. And Kamala Harris is going to be there, ready as ever. And then it's going to be an empty chair where Mike Pence should be. And it's going to have a little sign right on the table where Mike Pence should be sitting. And it's going to say out to lunch, because Mike Pence's wife may not let him debate Kamala Harris because Mike Pence's wife doesn't want Mike Pence to be alone with another woman. Because guys like Mike Pence, really straight-laced, ultra-conservative, evangelical white men, and I don't want to stereotype, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Like those, they even have the same haircut, just real straight-laced, evangelical, white, conservative. They love chocolate so much. Black girls know it. Y'all ain't going to admit it in this live, but y'all know that them white men, they love the chocolate so much. Because it's exotic for them. They love it. I don't know how Facebook doesn't ban me. Rodney Bates, good morning. Che Nisi Wale says exactly. Rodney Bates, I worked the polls yesterday. The absentee Some on the list had same-day requested and received ballot on it. Roy Moore, that was his name. Roy Moore and Doug Jones. I think I said Larry Moore. Doug Jones in Alabama. Thank you, guys. Jasmine Johnson, Sherwin Hughes, I'll be more specific. Invite to your barbecue. And listen, nobody barbecuing over here. Leah Delaney says, support loveonblackwomen.com. That's the name of her website. Love on Black Women. Oh, I bet a bunch of people are going to go to that website. No such thing as vegan ribs. You know what, Marlon? Let me tell you something. Stop it. There are many protein substitutes for meat. Eileen Seeger says, hello, Savage. I can't show you my whole shirt because it's got profanity on it because there's children watching and we don't want children to be exposed to my profanity. That interview with Owens was wild and all I could do was shake my head. So, yeah, I'm going to post the interview that I did with Orlando Owens. He is a candidate in the 11th Assembly District where Dora just won a Democratic primary, but Orlando Owens is running as a Republican. Guys, let's get to some election results before I run out of time. Notice of absentee ballot. This is from the City of Milwaukee Election Commission website. August 11, 2024 primary. 83,699 absentee ballots issued. Of the 83,699 absentee ballots issued, 50,191 were returned, 33,508 outstanding. That is what bothers me. So I don't know what happened to those 33,508 ballots. Some of them, maybe there was a clerical error and they were never sent, or they were sent to bad addresses, or they were sent to people in a time in which it was too late to mail them back in. Or some people said, you know what, I'm not going to vote by mail. I'm going to actually vote in person. But the 33,508 outstanding, unreturned mail-in ballots could have swung these elections in a variety of different ways. We just don't want that to happen on November 3rd. I want you to vote in a way that is most convenient for you and members of your family, because yes, your whole family is going to vote. But I would prefer people vote in person because your vote is counted and calculated in real time. We're doing everything else we need to do. Some people are back to work. The children are going back to school. We're going to the grocery store and doing all these other things. Voting, I would argue, is the reason why we're able to do most of those things. So I want y'all to vote in person. Now, between now and November 3rd, my mind may change, but I highly doubt it. Okay, City of Milwaukee. Precincts counted in the City of Milwaukee. 327. 327 out of 327 precincts have been counted. That is 100%. Registered voters in the 327 different voting wards / precincts in the City of Milwaukee. 296,099 current registered voters. I'm going to say that number one more again. 296,099 registered voters in the City of Milwaukee. Of the 296,099 registered voters in the City of Milwaukee, 69,178 ballots were cast yesterday. The road to defeating Donald Trump started yesterday. Not only did it start yesterday with our primary election, but it started yesterday because Joe Biden named his running mate Senator Kamala Harris from California, and only 69,178 people voted, meaning 230,000 registered voters. This is just in the city. This is not the county. 230,000 people didn't vote yesterday for whatever reason. And these are registered voters. These are people that are on the rolls of having the ability to getting a ballot and actually being able to cast it. Here's what makes me nervous. Those 230,000 people, we hope, are going to vote in November, but they may not have the experience of voting in a pandemic under their belt. The 69,178 people that did vote yesterday do have the experience of voting in a pandemic under their belt. I just don't want this to be a debacle on November 3rd because that's the last thing that we need. Of the 69,178 ballots cast, 59,053 were cast for Democrats, that's 85.36%. 9,339 ballots were cast for Republicans in the city of Milwaukee. That is 13.5%. Republicans need to just give up on trying to win any kind of political real estate in the city of Milwaukee because the numbers ain't there, bucko. Party preference, Democratic vote for 153,739 people, or 87.13%. Republicans, 7,810 in the party preference section of their ballot. That is 12.66% of the people voted for a Republican. Gwen Moore, who was running for her congressional seat for re-election, she had no opponent. State Senator Lena Taylor, who called in yesterday and told us that she had an opponent. And I thought that she did have a Democratic primary opponent, but they apparently did not make it on the ballot. Senator Lena Taylor, the only person to appear running for election in the State Senate District number 4. Lena received 12,795 votes, or 99.08% of the votes cast. But 119 people wrote somebody else's name in. All right, Lena, you got some work to do. You got 119 write-ins in your race. State Senator, District 6, this district in which I live. The incumbent, LaTanya Johnson, received 14,276 votes. LaTanya Johnson received 80.39% of the vote. My friend and colleague Michelle Bryan did come up short yesterday. She received 3,470 votes, or 19.54% of the vote. State Senator District 8, Neil Plotkin, he had no opponents. He received 562 votes. Write-in receives 1. Adam Murphy, State Senator District 28, he received 1,389 votes. Write-in was 7. That must be a Republican. Danny Reamer, Wisconsin State Assembly District 7, had no opponent. Danny Reamer receives 2,657 votes. Write-ins total 6. Now here's one. The 8th Assembly District. So Jocasta Zamaripa, who represented the people of the 8th Assembly District for, I believe, when did Jocasta get elected? 2010. I think she was there during the Act 10 debacle. In April, Jocasta Zamaripa ran for alder in Bob Donovan's district. She won, leaving her assembly seat vacated. Jocasta Zamaripa has a sister named Joanna Bouch. Joanna Bouch submitted paperwork and got on the ballot to be a Democrat to run in the assembly seat vacated by her sister. Now, Sylvia Ortiz Velez, who is a county board supervisor, if you guys don't remember, Sylvia Ortiz Velez ran against Peggy West for her county board seat. Sylvia defeated Peggy West. Sylvia got on the county board. Sylvia, also running as a Democrat in yesterday's primary, beats Jocasta Zamaripa's sister, Joanna Bouch, with 901 votes, and Joanna gets 793 votes. When I went to bed last night, Joanna Bouch was beating Sylvia Ortiz. She was winning. I thought the race was over. There were still a handful of wards that had been counted, and some of the mail-in ballots, the absentee ballots, had not been counted. I wake up this morning to a totally different result. So I was able to have I talked to both women, both Sylvia and Joanna, and if Joanna wanted some help in her campaign, I was certainly going to be able to provide it, at least because I didn't really know Joanna, but I know I used to work with Jocasta. Jocasta had a radio show at the same network that I did, and so she and I got to know each other as colleagues, but also know her from her legislative work. And I was like, look, we're all friends. If your sister needs a little bit of help, maybe there's something I can do to help get her across the finish line. And I just got led and dragged around by my nose, and they gave me the runaround, and then they can't show up for a meeting, and then blah, 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 blah. I did finally speak with Joanna once, and then she made it plain to me when I talked to her. She was like, Sherwin, why do you even want to help me? I was like, word? Fair enough. And I backed off. I'm not going to impose myself. I'm never going to do that. Well, Joanna maybe should have taken my help because now she has been defeated by Sylvia Ortiz. Another interesting race, Christian Saldivar, a guy who does not have any political experience. He did run for alderperson in the spring election, was unsuccessful. In fact, he ran in the same race as Jocasta's aldermanic race, running to succeed Bob Donovan. Christian Saldivar came up short against the incumbent Marissa Bell Cabrera. Christian receives 1,118 votes. Marissa Bell Cabrera received 1,851 votes. And here's the thing about Marissa Bell. She did not show up for a number of her committee meetings. And if you're elected to the state legislature, the least you can do is show up to the committee assignments you have so you can represent the people of the district that elected you. So she had a really poor attendance rate in that regard. But what she also did that I think in these days and times is an unforgivable political offense, Marissa Bell Cabrera voted against Governor Tony Evers, the Democratic governor. Remember, we haven't had a Democratic governor in 10 years in this state. But Marissa Bell Cabrera voted against Tony Evers' coronavirus relief bill, which makes no sense to me whatsoever because I'm going to tell you right now, the people in the state of Wisconsin need as many resources as they can possibly get during this pandemic, and Marissa Bell, standing on some kind of very unusual set of principles, voted against the Democratic governor. Well, you vote against the Democratic governor in a state that has not had a Democratic governor in 10 years, then you are going to be primed to be primaried. Unfortunately, Christian Saldivar did not succeed, but it's also extremely difficult for a male candidate, all right? Gender plays a role in politics, and I'm going to tell you how. It plays a role in politics more so with Democrats than anybody else. If you have even a qualified, hard-working male candidate running as a Democrat, all right, and there is a female incumbent, right, so a man challenging a woman in a Democratic primary, this does not necessarily apply to general elections, but when you have a Democrat running against a Democrat in Democratic primaries, Democratic voters always favor the woman, even if the woman is not doing a good job. And I'm not casting a negative dispersion on Democratic primary voters, but if they don't know anything about the candidates, and let's be honest, that happens a lot. You get your ballot, I don't know who that is. We say that a lot. Because if the campaigns have not taken the time or didn't have the resources to outreach to us, we legitimately don't know who these people are. Democratic primary voters, come hell or high water, always favor the woman. When they don't know who either candidate is, if one name sounds obviously female, that's what they vote for. And that's all. You can almost take that to the bank. And I've seen that in my political career. You know, men that are running, and for legitimate reasons, not running against the woman because she's a woman, because she's not being a good steward or a good representative of the people of that particular district. But Democratic voters, they support women. Alden Higgins says, my aunt was almost fooled by him. She called me to get some background information on him. I referred to a conversation you had on him on your live podcast. So you have to get a number of signatures to even appear on the ballot. And when Orlando Owens was collecting his nomination signatures to appear on the ballot, he wasn't telling people he was a Republican. That is so disrespectful and so deceitful. He's a very articulate guy. And he's very approachable. You know, he's got a little bit of charisma. And so he was essentially talking to voters and getting them to sign his nomination papers so he could appear on the ballot. And in a lot of cases, he was being outright deceitful. Because let's be honest, if a black man knocks on your door with a clipboard and says, hey, I'm so-and-so, you know, I'm trying to run for political office. I want to represent you. I believe we need a change of leadership and quality of life, whatever. You would assume they're a Democrat, especially in a district that votes 90+% for Democrats in every single election. You would assume he was not telling people that he was a Republican, or there were some people he told that he was a Republican after he got their signature. That's deceitful. If you're going to be that deceitful just getting on the ballot, imagine what you will do once you actually get elected. Orlando Owens is going to work with the Republican power structure that has drawn the maps that keep black representation cornered in a box, that do not want to provide help and relief and higher wages for people in this state. The same individuals that work together to break the back of organized labor, Orlando Owens is going to join those people in the Wisconsin State Assembly. The same people in the Wisconsin State Assembly that put together a series of bills to take away power from Governor Evers only because Evers is a Democrat. They gave all of that power and then some to Scott Walker. Tony Evers gets elected. These Republicans in the Wisconsin State Legislature took that power away from Tony Evers, and Orlando Owens wants to join those Republicans. Oh, no, I'm going to get the podcast because I don't want y'all to think that I'm embellishing. You hear a man in his own words, and that should be all the convincing that you need. David Todd, talk about putting the work in. That's how Issy won. Let me tell you something about Issy Ramon. Congratulations, Issy Ramon. Every time I opened up my little Facebooks, I seen Issy Ramon doing doors with somebody else. I seen Issy Ramon doing doors with Jesus, Mary, Joseph, my pastor. Congratulations, because running countywide is tough, especially during the pandemic. Calvin A. Lee, the work continues and needs to finish in November. Team Biden-Harris. What up, Calvin? Douglas Dickerson said, Owens came to my door. I just gave him a clean and sanitized the mask right at the beginning of COVID-19. I just gave him a clean and sanitized mask right at the... Well, at least you were helpful to him in some kind of way. Michael May says, ouch, only around 22 to 24% turnout. You know what's crazy about the turnout we saw yesterday? It was actually higher than other fall primary elections. Even though it's incredibly low, it was relatively, I think it was even higher than the primary in February. I believe it was, but still too low. Tammy Reed, I cannot be involved in politics. I get upset. When local elections have people I know and support running and they don't win, it's never a good Wednesday morning. It's not. Those are tough because you invest a lot of yourself in the campaign. Because remember, the election date is fixed, and you know the election date months out, and every single day that election date draws nearer, and you've got to take an inventory. Did you do everything you possibly could to advance the causes of your candidate? Did you? Because you don't get more time. It's not like you can extend the election date even though Donald Trump is trying to. You don't get that opportunity. And so when you work really, really hard and diligently, sometimes for a year or more because of that fixed election date, and then you're unsuccessful, yeah, that Wednesday morning is tough. And I've seen, my fair share of those tough Wednesday mornings. But that is also why I want to be mindful of those who ran campaigns. And it's hard work and it's a lot of commitment to be involved in the campaign. And I don't want to gloat and I don't want to, poke fun at people that weren't successful, even though I know for a fact that those people would have gloated and poked fun at me. I have an element of class about myself because I've been on both sides. Be as gracious in victory as you are in defeat. Good morning, Udell Harris. Glad you were able to join us, even though the broadcast is just about over. My 18-year-old son looked up all the candidates on the ballot before he filled out his. He wanted to make his own informed decision, first-time voter. That is what we all should do in every single election. Tammy Reed says, congrats to him. Always stay informed. Talking about Star's son. Star says, I was proud of him. He didn't just take what I said. He wanted to know for himself. And we're glad that he voted. I'm glad that a lot of you voted. Congratulations to those that won. And also congratulations to those that, ran hard-fought campaigns. Congratulations to Supreme Moore Umakunde, who's going to be representing myself and about 55,000 other people in the 17th Assembly District. And congratulations to Issy Ramon, who just swept through the entire county as our next elected Register of Deeds. You guys have yourselves a wonderful day, and I will see you all tomorrow.